The racing season may be over at racetracks around the country and the world, but while we're no longer filling grandstands at Indianapolis or Sonoma, we're filling up virtual racing servers. This is the CrowdStrike Cup Virtual Racing League, a demo run of sorts at one of the most famous racetracks in the world. CrowdStrike and AWS have been leaders in securing a remote workforce since long before the pandemic. Tonight, we're at virtual Spa-Francorchamps for our first round, racing remotely with CrowdStrike staff and friends. Visit CrowdStrikeRacing.com to learn more about the Virtual Racing League and the on-track season in 2021. Welcome to CrowdStrike Racing. My name is Kyle Heyer, joined tonight by Kevin Bohm, the Senior Engineer at Honda R&D and driver of the number 9 HPD Civic SI in TC America's TCA category. Kevin, welcome. We've got a really entertaining night of racing coming up ahead, something brand new for pandemic times here in the virtual racing world.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun to watch. It's going to be this has been a long time in the making. I know behind the scenes they've been working hard to get this event going. So to see this actually happen tonight, it's going to be a lot of fun.
So we're just about to get qualifying underway here tonight. We've got up on the schedule, we've got about 15 minutes or so of qualifying and then a 25-minute race to wrap things up for the end of the night. Again, if you'd like to learn more about this racing series and what will be happening in 2021, you can go to CrowdStrikeRacing.com. And in just a moment, we'll take you down to the racetrack as qualifying is about to begin. Kevin, Spa-Francorchamps, one of the most famous racetracks in the world, and there's a reason for it. Several decades old and goes back over half a century. But in terms of GT World Challenge Europe and its importance there, we know that our CrowdStrike Racing buddies were racing in the 24 Hours of Spa not too long ago. So this track holds some special importance for CrowdStrike specifically.
Yeah, I mean, Spa is one of those tracks that is on every race driver's bucket list. It's the track goes back to the beginning of racing, the history of it, and a lot of the original track you still get to race on. A little bit of the original track you get to race on today, and it's just like an amazing place, amazing history there, and definitely some CrowdStrike members were racing there earlier this year, and they had definitely a difficult time. It was raining there for nearly their whole race, so we got sunshine today, so it should be a little bit easier on them.
It certainly will be, and we'll head down to the racetrack now, and we'll get everyone rolling here in just a moment. Of course, the drivers pulling out on the racetrack, you'll notice some familiar names if you're CrowdStrike friends and family on the left-hand side of the screen. The ticker that you'll see right there is Sam Michaels as he pulls out onto the racetrack. And, of course, Sam Michaels out of Florida, the Customer Success Operations Associate for CrowdStrike, as he pulls out onto the Kemmel Straight here at Spa-Francorchamps. He has competed with Walkenhorst Motorsport in the Digital NLS Series in 2020 and has an 8,000-plus road iRating on iRacing. So if you're from that side of the sim racing world, you'll be very familiar with Sam Michaels and his success over there. So getting the car up to pace here, and I'd like you to take me for a little bit of a lap here at Spa-Francorchamps here. Kevin, tell me what you got around a lap here at Spa and what it takes to go fast.
Well, I mean, Spa is a high-speed track overall, and once you kind of go down the long front stretch, you're really preparing yourself to go through the uphill, fast Eau Rouge and Radillon, and you try to go through full throttle, and hopefully you can do that without crashing, and then you go down the long straight there, and then really, really hard brake zone, uphill, right and left chicane. You really have to be precise with the car to keep from sliding it. Then you've got the Les Combs. You have to be really precise on the right hand. Try to stay off the curbs a little bit because you can make the car really unsettled. You got a short straightaway and then a 180-degree turn that's going downhill the whole way around. And then a very short straightaway and a very quick left-hand turn. And that's when you're going down the Kemmel Straight and really setting yourself up for a really long left-hand turn that's also downhill, so really difficult, kind of blind. You're going through really fast, going all the way up to campus. Right hand, left hand, really quick. Then you're at the turn 15, which is really tighter than it looks, and that sets you up for another really high-speed section where you're going all the way through Blanchimont. You try to stay full throttle all the way to the chicane right before the start-finish line. Try to be really precise, really hit the curbs hard, and you get all the way back to the start-finish.
And that's where we are right now with Sam Michaels as we head down the hill towards that very famous corner, Eau Rouge, which, again, we're in Belgium, but Eau Rouge is French for red water. There's actually a river that heads up underneath this portion of the racetrack that is stained with iron, and that is why, iron oxide, I should say, which is why it's actually stained red, and that's where the Eau Rouge name comes from. As Michaels comes across to begin a flying lap, of course, you'll see some lap times on the left-hand side of your screen in just a little bit. As he heads through Les Combes and into the first sector, some traffic on the left-hand side of the racetrack. And I want to look a little bit more at this racetrack, and you'll notice one thing about this, Kevin. Lots of paved runoff here, but that doesn't necessarily make this track any easier.
No, the simulation really limits how far out you can go, and also it gets pretty slippery once you get out onto some of the bright green and the curbing sections. It'll really unsettle the car, and you really have to be in control when you go out that far. So it looks inviting, but you also have to be really kind of in control and stay off of it if you can.
So Michaels works his way down towards the middle sector. Lots of other familiar names here, and Matt Gefeller in the number 8 car. He's actually found his way into the wall at the exit of Radillon at the top of the hill of Eau Rouge, and he's actually in the K-Pax Bentley, but we're familiar with Matt Gefeller. Of course, him being the senior incident response consultant at CrowdStrike. And again, he didn't have an interesting fact for us in the driver doc, but I think he's already having a pretty solid start. Didn't get a whole lot of damage from that incident there at the top of the hill, so continues his qualifying efforts here. Not a lot of time. 15 minutes here at Spa is only about 6 or 7 laps. Out lap all the way around to in lap again, so you're just trying to run your fastest lap, and this lap speed will basically set your starting position for the 25-minute race.
Yeah, that's right, and the time ticks away really quick, especially when you're trying to put together a really clean lap, and traffic really comes into play as well. It always seems like when you feel like you've got 90% of a clean lap going, then you catch some lap traffic, and that messes up your perfect lap. So it's really important to try to find an open space on the track.
As we get rolling here, of course, we've got about 20 drivers entered in this here tonight, and this is drivers from all sorts of experience levels here in Assetto Corsa Competizione, and that is, of course, the game platform that we're utilizing, the racing simulator. Again, Assetto Corsa Competizione, a relatively new title in the sim racing space, focuses on GT World Challenge, GT3 and GT4 racing. We'll just be racing GT3 cars tonight. Kevin, tell me a little bit about what makes a GT3 car and why they're so cool to watch.
Well, I mean, a GT3 car starts out with a lot of cars that we see and kind of drool over on in the supercar world, like this McLaren we have on the screen here. That car is already really fast, but they kind of take that car. They take a lot of weight out of it. They normally don't add many power, but they add a lot of downforce and a lot of grip to the car. So lightweight, lots of grip. These cars handle really well, especially on the high-speed turns at Spa. So these GT3 cars have to be a lot of fun here.
Now they're, again, roughly 400 to 500 horsepower or somewhere in there, maybe a little bit more depending on the platform. Weight's kind of ranging, and one thing I love about GT3 racing, Kevin, is the diversity in cars. We're seeing the McLaren 720S there, but if you look out throughout the rest of the field, there are Porsches, there are, I don't know if we have any BMWs here. No, we do. It looks like Walsh. Chris Walsh is in a BMW M6 GT3. You got Lamborghinis and Nissan GTRs, Mercedes AMGs, Audi R8s. There's even a Jaguar in the field. Looks like Teresa Combs-Fisher in the number 54 is in one of the Jaguars. That's one of my all-time favorites. It sounds so cool, too. So a lot of different cars, bodies, manufacturers, all represented here in Assetto Corsa Competizione for our first CrowdStrike Cup Virtual Racing League.
Yeah, that's right, and each one of these cars is going to have kind of pluses and minuses, the little advantages and disadvantages when you go around the track, so some of that kind of plays in as we see Josh Staffen cut the turn just a little bit there. But those kind of advantages you have to, when you're on track, to use them to maybe even pass someone. So it's going to be fun to watch all these cars race against each other tonight.
Oh, big slide for Jason Barnes in the number 2 CrowdStrike Mercedes. He's going to go for a little bit of a slide. And you see, actually, it's interesting, if we stop here and we have a look at the racetrack, you'll see this defined racing line here with the kind of the blackened racetrack. That's the rubbered-in racing line. Out here, though, in the red, you'll see all these marbles, all this dirty stuff. That's basically little bits of rubber, and the reason why they're called marbles, Kevin, is because that's what they feel like when you drive over them. Just bits of rubber that make the track very, very slick, as you see Barnes struggling to get back up under pace.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to drive over the marbles. They're really slippery and they actually stick to your tires. So even once you're off the marbles, you have to kind of keep driving for a little while to wear them back off your tires.
So working our way now through the middle of qualifying, about 6 minutes remaining here as we head down into La Source at the top of the hill, and then you're going to make that run down towards Eau Rouge. And almost, probably in good conditions here, Kevin, probably full throttle. Let's just listen to Mike here in the 26 as he heads down the hill, left and right, clips the curbing, and he's off throttle now. I think he's slowing up just a little bit, but I think under pace, you're going to be pretty much full throttle through that section.
Yeah, you can do it full throttle when the tires are really new and you have a little bit of low fuel. But it's still tricky. It's not an easy thing to do. So I think it's actually pretty easy to give up just a tiny bit of throttle on the entry, and you don't lose a lot of lap time to do that, and it makes it a lot easier to get through there actually.
A couple cars finishing up again. Our race will be 25 minutes long. That's a pretty short race. From many perspectives, Kevin, I know you race typically a little bit longer than that. The intensity level in short races can be pretty high, but it's also a nice, more, I guess, consumable chunk for drivers that are just getting used to racing in Esports. So how does that feel as a driver to be racing for 25 minutes? Do you like that sprint format, or are you a guy that likes to race a little bit longer?
Well, I mean, it always seems like when you're leading, the races take way too long. Even a 45-minute race seems like it takes 3 hours, and if you're trying to make up ground, the race is always ending way too fast. So I think some of it's all relative, and for some guys tonight, the 25-minute race may seem like a lifetime, but for others it'll go by pretty quick. So yeah, it really depends.
Heading through a corner that's called Blanchiment. That's a very fast full throttle left-hander. That was a big topic of discussion during the SRO America Esports race a couple days ago. We raced in the rain here at Spa-Francorchamps, and Blanchiment was a very sketchy corner on the slick rain conditions. So across the line for the number 98 car, that is a 2:30.246. And as you'll note at the top of the order, Josh in the number 23 over Sam by just about 0.7 of a second. That's a pretty tight gap considering this racetrack is 7 kilometers long.
Yeah, that's right. There's so many turns here, and there's so many challenging sections of this track that to be 0.7 of a second is it's a pretty big achievement. And Josh Staffan's a very accomplished sim racer, so definitely going out there fast.
Through Eau Rouge with Sam right now, left-hand curb, right-hand curb, full throttle up the hill, and this is a great example of the interior of one of these GT3 cars, and we can have a look at a couple different portions of this car. You'll notice here under the yellow circle here, those are the tack lights. So basically whenever these lights fill out all the way to the top, you basically shift the car, and all the shifting is done on the steering wheel. You don't have to leave your hands don't have to jump off the wheel like you would in a sports car. You can just basically shift up with your right hand with the paddle behind the wheel and shift down with the left hand. A little bit easier than your Honda Civic Si that you race in TC America, Kevin.
Yeah, that's right, and the main reason is these GT3 cars are going so fast. It's pretty uncomfortable to take your hands off the wheel. So the paddle shifters make that a little bit easier, and you can still see there's a lot of buttons and switches in there. And believe it or not, all those things are actually working here in the ACC simulation. So there's a lot of adjustments that you can do even from the driver's seat.
And we watched that a lot this past weekend as well. All those buttons and dials and controls, all settings that you might make to traction control, anti-lock braking systems. And we can actually see in Assetto Corsa Competizione when someone changes the settings on the traction control or brake bias, we can actually watch their hand move. And I'm going to kind of jump on board with Josh, I think, in the race to see if he's making those adjustments. a lot of really cool details here in this simulator. We've also got a couple people that are here tonight, including Jason from Operation Motorsport, and they're pretty involved with CrowdStrike Racing in the real world. Kevin, tell me a little bit about Operation Motorsports.
Yeah, I mean, Operation Motorsports joined us this year in TC America, and basically it's a program to get some wounded warriors who are discharged from the military, to get them kind of back up on their feet and be in a team atmosphere. And I was able to basically give a couple of guys a chance to work with me this year, and they were very key in our success and basically being able to get us up on the podium. And it was a pretty cool experience to be involved with that.
So Jason right now currently 6th in qualifying. A handful of drivers have yet to put in a lap time. We noted about the track limits earlier. The white lines basically denote the edge of the racetrack. The yellow and red stripes sort of the extent of that. Got to keep your car on track. If you go out the racetrack 3 times over the course of the race and gain an advantage, you will be disqualified from the event. It's just sort of the automatic anti-cheat system sort of built into the simulator. So keep it between the lines, keep it on the blacktop tonight for 25 minutes. It sounds easy, but it's really not. The speeds you have to travel in these cars in the virtual world, and you're an avid sim racer as well, Kevin, so you know very well that it's not exactly like the real world, but it's a pretty good approximation, and it's not easy.
It definitely feels real when you're out, when you're even in the virtual cockpit and you're pushing the car to the limit. You start to sweat a little bit, and your adrenaline starts going. So they definitely done a good job of capturing that realism.
The number 18 car, that's a Nissan, working its way through the backside of the course now. 10 seconds left in qualifying, and they should get a chance to finish all the laps that they have started. And this is Das Lightning out of California, working their way through the closing moments of Spa-Francorchamps. About 5 minutes you're allowed to complete your laps, but as soon as all the cars pull off, we'll reset that timer and get everyone gridded up on the racetrack for 1 pace lap, just to get their tires and brakes warmed up. And that's an important part of any race in a GT car, Kevin, is making sure that your equipment is ready to rock. And that might include warming up the tires because they work well at higher temperatures, or warming up those brakes because they're meant to work in pretty hot temperatures as well.
Yeah, that's right, and the ACC simulation actually captures that realism. And if you let the tires cool off too much, then not only are the tires too cold and don't make enough grip, but the tire pressures start to go down, and if they fall too low, then you can actually get flat tires. So it's definitely important on that pace lap to get as much heat in the tire as you can so that you don't have any issues like that.
Now, it won't be a factor so much in today's race, but you actually, if you run these cars for a long time, and you can actually select different brake pad compounds, and that was an issue in our 6-hour event here at Spa last weekend. There were some drivers that selected the wrong brake compound and ended up having to replace their brakes mid-race, which isn't a feature that is here in Assetto Corsa Competizione. Dave having some issues there on the fast left-hander. One of the topics of discussion with these GT cars, as always, is downforce level. And what that basically means is we're basically taking airplane wings, flipping them upside down and attaching them to the back of the car. And that creates reverse lift. That's called downforce, and it pushes the car into the ground and makes it go faster around the corners. But some drivers might not have their cars set up to have the maximum level of downforce. And there's sort of a trade-off there between the performance advantage and the negative benefit from having wings up in the air. So lots of discussion about tires, brakes, aerodynamics, but I think at the end of the day, just a lot of these drivers are just getting used to the simulator, Kevin, and are just trying to figure out how to go fast, and that's super important here.
Yeah, and I think to start with, it's more about getting comfortable and trying to get your kind of sim legs on you, to speak, because when you're driving a real car, you have a lot of kind of feeling that gives you a lot of feedback on what the car is doing and how much margin you have to sliding the car and things like that. But here in the sim, you don't have that feeling, so you have to rely a little bit more on your vision and a little bit more on your hearing. So I think it's more about kind of getting comfortable with that, and then you can start playing around with some of the adjustability of the car after that.
So a couple minutes before we actually turn these guys loose for racing, on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see the starting lineup and see if you find any familiar names over there. taking a look down the list, of course, Josh Staffen, one of our buddies from the Champion Motorsports group, and he's sort of leading the effort here in terms of getting the servers up and running, which is really neat. So we thank Josh for his time and commitment to make everything work very smoothly. And looking down the list, lots of people that are from CrowdStrike, and this is such a cool opportunity to kind of get together with your coworkers and friends and have a race here, Kevin. There's a lot of really competitive esport, but sometimes it's fun just to kind of take a step back and have some fun.
Yeah, that's right, and I think it's really important to, especially on this first race, to kind of, there's no pressure and just to have fun and just use this as a learning experience. So I'm excited to see everybody go through Eau Rouge for the first time here in a couple minutes.
And for those watching at home that are trying to decode all the stuff that's on the screen, we're going to walk through it here for you in just a second. On the left-hand side of the screen, you see these overlays. Basically, every car that we're focused on that the camera has in view, the number will be lit up in red. This number here in this column is the position of the race car. The next column, of course, is the name of the driver. The column following that, of course, is the manufacturer. So, of course, at the top, Lexus, Mercedes, BMW, Bentley, Ferrari, so on and so forth. Then the column after that is the car number. So we've got the driver on the pole in Josh Staffen's car is the number 23. And then you'll see the next column, which is empty right now. That's actually the gaps between the cars. So keep your eye on that throughout the race to see where the battles are. We'll take you through them live on the screen, so you shouldn't have to work too hard to see what's going on the racetrack. But that's a kind of a decode. In the bottom right, you'll see some more information regarding what driver we're looking at the time. So that's a good key to everything here. So as we prepare for the racing here, Kevin, predictions for our 25-minute race. How's the start going to go? We're going to start heading into Eau Rouge, just where the cars are right now.
Well, I mean, it's a really fast section of the track, and I hope everybody's pretty cautious through there. It's pretty tough to go too wide, so to do it, you have to have a lot of respect for the cars around you. So it'll be interesting to see everybody get through that first time. I think probably the first 2 or 3 rows will get through fine, and then after that, it's anybody's guess.
One of my favorite things about Spa-Francorchamps is its location in Stavelot, Belgium. This is a super picturesque location, and it's been captured perfectly here in Assetto Corsa Competizione. All the trees around and everything, a true experience to behold, not only in the real world, but also in the sim. Let's talk a little bit about CrowdStrike. Of course, they work very closely with AWS, and I've had the pleasure of working with CrowdStrike Racing in the real world this season, as well as in the virtual world. Of course, CrowdStrike and AWS share a 360-degree relationship where CrowdStrike actually runs on the AWS cloud, and AWS uses CrowdStrike to secure its servers. CrowdStrike is an AWS premier partner, and we're glad to have them on board. And glad to be here with you again, Kevin. We got to talk a lot this season at the real racetracks, and it feels very fitting to end sort of where we started the year in a simulated environment.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we're basically kicking off where we left off at Indy, so it's going to be a lot of fun to kind of watch these races and try to decode what's going on.
And you'll see in the middle of your screen now those yellow and red rumble strips. They're built there to basically create a vibration whenever you get near the edge of the racetrack to tell the driver, you're at the edge, don't go beyond this. But the drivers will be all over those things tonight trying to extend the racetrack all the way out to the edge. There's Eau Rouge, and there's the front straightaway. We're about to begin driving for our pace lap. And we'll go about 50 to 60 miles an hour, warm up those tires, warm up those brakes, and the next time by, we'll be going full throttle up Eau Rouge at Spa-Francorchamps. Again, my name's Kyle Heyer. I've been around for a couple of years streaming esports and also announcing for some of the coolest motorsports organizations in the country, and joined again by Kevin Bohm, driver of the number 9 Honda Civic Si TCA car in TC America. So Kevin, thanks again for joining me, and the car is about to roll off here as they begin their pace lap.
Yeah, I know that every driver out there is just a little bit nervous right now because it's always hard right before the race. You just want it to start, and it's a very anxious part.
Rolling up the hill now, and you see Josh Staffen weaving the car right and left, get those tires warmed up. And they'll be in single file formation for now, but by the time they come back around to the start-finish line, they'll be doubled up, re-racked, and restacked for a 25-minute adventure here in the CrowdStrike Cup Virtual Racing League. Lots of virtual fans adorning the sides of the hills here, which we can't do in the real world just yet, Kevin, but the virtual guys can.
Yeah, that's right. I'm kind of surprised they didn't program in some masks on everybody, but in the end, I think they're going to get a good view, and we're going to get a good view of this race as well.
I think so, for sure. I probably could have turned the crowds off, and that would have been a pretty realistic 2020 look at things. But, of course, CrowdStrike has been moving in the past couple of years to a lot of remote working, and which has actually turned out to be sort of a blessing in disguise this year when everything started happening. So CrowdStrike kind of being ahead of the curveball there, not only with moving to a lot of remote working opportunities, but also ahead of the curve in terms of security. And, of course, every second counts for CrowdStrike. So Josh Staffen now working his way down through Lake Home and down into the backside of the racetrack. And behind him, Sam in the number 16. This is a great looking race car. The reason why, it's pretty much the exact livery that runs on the real car. And that is one of the most handsome Mercedes AMGs I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's really fun that we were able to reproduce that livery here in the sim, and to see that thing live on virtually.
Get a nice good look at it here as he rolls on through, and pretty much every detail, every curve is represented here in the sim. And Sam will take that thing to fight Josh Staffen at the front of the field. And behind him be the number 99, driven by Chris, in the BMW M6 platform. That's a long car, too. Talked about the differences in some of the GT3 cars, not only in power and weight, but also wheelbase. That M6 is super long. Looks like a limo out there.
Yeah, it's all these cars have a lot of nuanced differences, and with the BMW and the Mercedes, it's kind of really long hoods and front engine that's set back in the car, and the Bentley there is right-hand drive. So there's all kinds of really unique things about all these cars that you have to get used to when you're driving out here.
Pretty sure the Bentley is the only right-hand drive car here. Unless, I don't know if I think the Jaguar is also left-hand drive. So I think the Bentley is the only right-hand drive car represented here today. 777 running a bright red Ferrari scheme. That's very fitting. Looking down my list here, my cheat sheet. A lot of new names to get used to. Working our way through now what's called Blanchiment. Again, the high-speed left-hander coming up. This is full throttle. For the next time that these cars will come through here, they'll be doing north of 150 miles an hour. Aiming for that curbing on the left-hand side of the racetrack, tracking out, and then heading to the tightest corner on the racetrack, one of them at least, the chicane to end the lap.
Yeah, here we see everybody lining up in 2x2 so that they can start the race side by side.
And we'll be taking the green flag after the hairpin corner, known as La Source. So we're a little bit away still from the start of this race, maybe about 30, 40 seconds or so, maybe a little bit less than that as we come out of what is the final corner. And doubling up one final time. There is one of the start-finish lines. That's an option to use, but again, we're going to use the classic one around the corner from here. Car off in the dirt on the left-hand side of the racetrack, pulling back on. It's sort of confusing. Some drivers just want to go because this is typically where you take the green flag at Spa-Francorchamps. But now around the corner here at La Source, Josh Staffen on the pole in that number 23 car, heading down the hill. The CrowdStrike Cup Virtual Racing League is about to get underway as we head towards Eau Rouge at Spa-Francorchamps. Thanks for joining us here tonight, CrowdStrike friends and family. We wish you the best, and we're about to turn them loose. 25 minutes of racing from one of the most famous racetracks in the world, in the virtual world tonight in Assetto Corsa Competizione. Green flag flies, and we're racing at Spa. Josh Staffen leads the way up the hill. Sam behind him tucks in. And Chris in the 99's got Matt behind him in the number 8 car as they sweep down the back straightaway. Now getting in line for the slipstream for the top spot. It's right now Lexus versus Mercedes into Lake Home.
Right, and the tires aren't up to temperature yet, so you got to be a little careful. The cars are going to slide around. Try not to slide off the track as we see Sam try to make a move here into turn 3 here.
Now up the inside, couldn't quite get that move done. So far, so good. We made it through the first couple corners. A drive-through penalty looks like it's been assigned. to the number 2 car, but we'll see if that gets cleared. Sometimes the starting procedures can be a little bit borked. Go, big slide behind for, I think that's one of the Porsches. Chailu, excuse me. That's my pronunciation. I'm learning how to pronounce all these new names. Down the back straightaway now. Here comes the Bentley up the inside for position. Side by side.
Very, very close there. It looked like they almost touched, but got through clean.
Oh, and on the brakes a little bit late. Looks like maybe a little bit of contact there. Back up at the front. Staffen is pulled away by 4 car lengths. You can watch out the rear wing, that big upside-down airplane wing, keeping the car stuck to the surface, and the CrowdStrike Mercedes in behind trying to reel him back in.
Right, you're definitely going to see Sam here try to get close to the Lexus and get into the slipstream and try to get a little closer to the Lexus so that they can make a move going up to Eau Rouge here coming up in a couple turns.
Staffen a little bit wide at the exit of Blanchimont. Now onto the brakes. Who can brake deeper? Sam hard on the binders to get that thing slowed down. Behind them, a couple more drivers have sorted themselves out. We've almost made it a lap already. They tick by relatively quickly here and into the tight and twisties.
Yeah, overall we had a pretty clean first lap, so really good to see that.
Like Jason in the 33 car, going to defend a little bit from that Porsche that went off a little bit earlier in the lap. Now down into La Source to start it all over again on lap number 2.
This will be the first time that we go through Eau Rouge at full speed, so it'll be important for everybody to make sure they have control of the cars as they go through this really difficult section.
Again, if you're new and didn't catch what we went over right before the race, at the bottom right of your screen, you can find out who we're riding on board with. Right now, it's the number 98 Porsche, driven by Chailu. Up the road, there's some battles for position going on. I believe that's Darren in the number 6 using another driver's account here, but trailing the 777 as they head down into the long right-hander. This is almost a 180-degree turn.
Right, and it's downhill the whole way, so you actually have to wait to get on the throttle a lot longer than you think. It looks like we had a spin there from one of the leaders.
Yeah, that's Sam again. He's gone around for a loop. Let's go back and have a quick look here at the replay and see if we can decide how this all happened. He was chasing Staffen up in the front. Here's a look at the replay. Goes down into the corner. There's a Lamborghini stopped on the inside. Tries to go the long way around and just gets tagged there at the very end and gets turned into the fence.
Yeah, that's pretty unfortunate, but that's one of the things you have to be careful with when it comes to lap traffic. So I'm sure Sam's going to get his head back on straight and put his head down and put some fast laps and see if he can catch Josh Staffen up front.
Yeah, back live, he's slipped down to about 4th position. We'll see if he can make up any of that time, but that's going to give Staffen quite the lead now. The 777 Ferrari in behind, that's Dean. A good battle for position here. Mercedes versus Ferrari, not a battle you'd necessarily see on the street, but in GT3, in GT World Challenge, absolutely.
Yeah, that's right, and yeah, these Mercedes are a lot of fun to drive at Spa.
5 minutes already complete, only a handful of laps in. And looking down the order, good battle going on for, looks like 9th right now. There's the blue Mercedes driven by Peter. And David in behind in the number 3 car. They're going to be side by side going down the front straightaway. Porsche on the left, Mercedes on the right.
It's going to be a battle in the brake zone, so you can brake the latest, and looks like the Porsche was able to do that and get through clean.
Whoa, big slide for, looks like Chailu's gone almost around for a spin in the first corner. I guess that's the last corner on this particular layout at La Source. Then down the hill, speed climbing well over 140 miles an hour, then through Eau Rouge.
You can see how difficult it is to get through that section. The car really wants to have a big slide once you start going up the hill, so you really have to have really smooth hands and not move the wheel too much to keep control.
Checking back in with our race leader. About a 5-second lead that he's established now. And of course, Josh, very familiar with the Assetto Corsa Competizione, which is definitely an advantage to him. He's been around the sim long enough to kind of know the mannerisms of it and know how to really attack, but it's far from over. Behind him is the Bentley. That's Matt in the K-Pax racing car.
Yeah, it looks like Matt's running some clean lines right now. I think he's mostly trying to stay out of trouble, and hopefully Josh Staffen might have some trouble, and he might be able to catch him a little bit later in the race.
Well, looking off the rear wing, you're going to see a CrowdStrike Mercedes approaching. It's no one else other than Sam in that number 16. And again, trying to charge back forward, drop to fourth with the spin, and around goes Matt into the fence. And he'll find his way into the wall, and that'll be a little bit of damage on the nose of that car, but I think he got away with it.
Yeah, I think that might have been a little bit of driving in the mirrors and seeing Sam catch him and maybe overdriving the turn just a little bit.
Here goes the 777 Ferrari up the inside. That's side-by-side for position through Blanchimont. Move Dean in the Ferrari up one spot. And move the Bentley down one. So that will put Sam back up into second place, albeit a little farther behind than he was before. Still far from over. 18 minutes to go here in the CrowdStrike Cup Virtual Racing League.
Yeah, that's right. It shows how fast things can change. So you really have to be cautious, especially when you're around the lap traffic like the Lamborghini there. So I think Sam is going to be trying to keep his nose clean and see if he can catch Josh a little bit at a time over the course of the next 17 minutes.
Lots of marbles already accumulating on the sides of the racetrack. You want to stay off of those for the most part. Jump back a little bit deeper in the field. Find the number 80 in one of the Audi LMS GT3s. I love how these things look so sleek and low to the ground, low slung. Running 12th right now. And just up the road, I think we got a little bit of a battle for position. I thought we did. Yes, it looks like Jordan had a bit of a spin there in the McLaren. Another one of my favorite cars here in GT3.
Right, it's so easy to have these little half spins, especially in the really slow speed turns, because these cars have somewhere around 500 horsepower, some a little more, some a little less, and it's pretty easy to spin the tires, especially when you have some steering in the car, and it's pretty amazing how quickly you can get sideways.
And Jason is in one of those McLarens, and we were talking about it before. No number panels or anything on this car. He's a number 33 on the timing and scoring and got a decal on the back, but that is basically just a bare carbon fiber McLaren 720S, and it is cool looking. I love that thing.
Yeah, that is a stealth car if I've ever seen one, so it'd be awesome if they let you race it this way, but it's pretty hard to identify, and you wouldn't be able to see it coming either.
No, especially if we were racing at night. That would be not a fun situation for everybody else. I'm sure it'd be great to drive. Everyone else trying to look out for it that would be challenging. Up front, Staffen's lost some ground to Sam, and that lead is dwindled down to 1.7 seconds.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but obviously Sam's driving some pretty quick laps. He was only a couple of tenths off of Josh's fast time in practice, so I definitely think they've got the pace, but we'll see once we see this going. Maybe Josh made a mistake that lap.
Yeah, a little bit. A couple seconds he lost that lap. It's so easy to make that mistake.
And it may not even be a mistake either, because the lap traffic plays such a huge role, especially if you're trying to be cautious and make sure there's no contact. If you catch a car in a wrong place, you can really lose a lot of lap time.
Here's David in the number 3 Porsche. That's got a CrowdStrike and AWS livery on it. Looks good out there, sharp in the red and black colors. And into La Source behind that number 33 McLaren we were just talking about, 6th and 7th, separated by only a couple tenths of a second.
Yeah, that's right, and you're going to see a lot of these gaps kind of close up and extend as each of these cars have a little bit of advantage and disadvantage at different sections of the track, and it's definitely going to be cool to watch this battle develop, as the Porsche looks like it gets a really good run through Eau Rouge and Radillon. Yeah,
again, the Porsche is a rear-engine car. At least the GT3 spec car is still rear-engined, and it gives it a really unique aerodynamic and mechanical balance. It's got all the weight basically over the rear tires, which the mid-engine cars like the McLaren sort of have a much more equal weight distribution. You see Jason slipping and sliding in that 33. Big dive on the brakes for David. trying to close back in, but as I was saying, the differences between the cars mechanically is pretty sizable, and it gives the Porsche a distinct advantage leaving the corner.
Right, and it really affects how you have to drive the car. Typically, the Porsche doesn't have as good kind of turn on the first half of the turn, but it has really good drive off. You have a lot of grip on the rear of the car, so you have to kind of adapt your driving style to match that a little bit. And likewise, the McLaren with the mid-engine, it's a little bit harder to drive in the middle of the turn because there's so much weight in the middle of the car. The front and the rear don't really know which one want to have the grip.
A little bit wide for both of them there, and I think behind them they're being chased down by, I believe it's that blue Mercedes, the number 7. So a great battle forming here for 6th. The lead is still about 1.7 seconds between Josh and Sam at the front. We're going to stay focused on this one for now.
Yeah, that's right. And as David and Jason battle here, you're going to see the car behind them catch them a little bit as the Porsche gets a really good run.
Side by side towards Blanchimont. Looks like Jason's going to back out, let David have the spot for now. I think that might have been a smart decision. Kevin, there's always points in a race when things are not worth fighting, and I think Jason decided maybe now is not the time that I fight this, and I go and get him later.
Yeah, I mean, as we were kind of watching, he was spinning the tires and sliding a little bit, and I think that kind of shows that he was getting had a lot of pressure and was maybe overdriving a little bit. So instead of risking a spin, he decided to let the Porsche by so that he could relax a little bit and maybe save his race.
And going back into the brakes for La Source, looks like Jason had closed back up. And now about 7 or 8 car lengths behind as they head towards Eau Rouge. Let's just listen here for a moment. So fast through the top of Radillon. Cars rejoining the racetrack from pit lane right in front of these drivers. They're going to sweep to the left and make that pass.
Yeah, that's right. You got to watch those cars rejoining the track because they come out right in one of the high-speed sections, and that can mess you up if you're not careful.
Well, big dive for Jason on the brakes again. That McLaren seems to have an advantage when on the brakes, just kind of closes up that gap between them. It's only a car length or two, a couple blue Mercedes in behind them. One of them is a lap down. And there is Dave in the number 615 Porsche. That's a good looking car as well. Looks just like the one we were just looking at. And of course, Dave had some interesting facts about him. I'm going to look up his name on my long list here, but another one of those Porsche cars out there, Kevin, and he's not having quite the day he probably wanted, but he's kept that car out of the fence so far.
Right, and I think that's the important thing. You don't have to go out here and try to win the race right from the beginning. I think it's going to be, it takes a lot of learning. You got to figure out how to kind of feel these cars with your eyes and get used to the virtual racing. So I'm glad to see Dave out here really pushing his own limits and learning every lap.
Well, Dave was asked why he was interested in this series as he goes for a slide, catches the Armco just a little bit, but grew up with a passion for cars, and he's had everything from 70 horsepower hatchbacks to 700 horsepower twin turbo V12s, and he says he's very interested in learning the ropes in sim racing. That's pretty cool, and some of the cars that he's had probably have more horsepower than this GT3 Porsche.
Yeah, that's right. I think this Porsche is right around 500 horsepower. So definitely a twin turbo V12. That sounds something right up my alley.
Oh. Change for the lead. Looks like Staffen has dropped down. It looks like Sam had gone through. And for Staffen at about an 8-second slower lap time. So change in position out front. But even with the spin earlier, Sam's driven back through the field from 4th and has retaken the lead here with 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, that's right, and I think that's what's important, not to let a little spin or a mistake or some kind of outside thing really affect you. You have to kind of put it behind you and really focus on what's next and the job at hand and running some fast laps, and definitely Sam's doing that.
Keep an eye to see if Staffen can close that gap back up. I think he was trending faster earlier in the race, so I'm curious to see if he can get that pace back here in the final 9 minutes and drive back up. But 6.6 seconds is the gap right now, and I don't know if that's enough time to get back there, even if he's quicker about a second a lap.
Right, and I think this is what we were talking about earlier. Josh, that 9 minutes is going to feel like it goes by in a heartbeat, and for Sam, the 9 minutes is going to feel like it's taking forever, because obviously you want to win, so it definitely depends on your perspective.
A little bit wide there. You see Sam just up the road. He's gotten through some lap traffic. Yeah, he sweeps through Blanchimont. Had to slow him down just a little bit. That's going to cost him some time. It cost him a full second in that sector. And you see the traffic in the background, and then Josh Staffen way behind as he now approaches the traffic. Going to swing to the left, now back to the right into the braking zone for the chicane. That looks to be the number 2 car. That car tonight being driven by Jason, who has significant damage on the nose of that Mercedes. I've seen some Mercedes that look a little nicer than that one.
Yeah, that's right. I think just trying to nurse that car back to the finish at this point.
Yeah, I think so. That's a no low ballers, I know what I have kind of car. As he comes out of La Source and heads down the hill again, Staffen continues to try to close that gap, 5.9 as they come across the line. 8 minutes and 20 seconds to go.
Yeah, I mean, Josh is basically going to have to save about a second a lap, or hope Sam kind of catches some traffic a lot worse than he does. And definitely it's going to be tough. The 8 minutes isn't a lot of time left.
It certainly is not. There's some other battles happening on the racetrack right now. There's a pair of bright blue Mercedes having a scrap right now. That's the number 6 car and the number 7 car, kind of running in tandem right now as they head down the front straightaway into La Source.
Yeah, that's right. It's feels like these cars are teammates, but yeah, I think they've been running about this far apart for a few laps now. So definitely good to see these guys trying to battle with each other.
Up the hill now. How about for 5th spot? There's a battle, or was a battle for a moment. Jason in the 33 and the 99. Chris down the order just a little bit as they head into the corner. There's that Lamborghini. We're right on board here with the number 99 BMW. Looks like we got one of the drivers in pit lane. I think that's the 777. Dean coming down pit lane. And you don't need to make a pit stop in this race, but maybe just getting a reset and getting that damage repaired on that car. 5.6 seconds now between Staffen and Michaels, and Staffen definitely is closing the gap here, Kevin. What do you think the chances are that he gets back up there?
I don't know. The lap started at 5.9 seconds, so he's going to need to catch him just a little bit quicker than this. But we've already seen a couple of times in this race the gap can change really quick depending on how you catch traffic. So it's still possible, but by raw pace, I'm not sure if Josh has enough yet.
Really love riding on board these cars and hearing the rapid downshifts. Every time you grab a gear, and just the throaty explosion sound that you hear when you drop those gears, it's such a cool sound, especially here in the Esports Competizione. That time through, Staffen's last lap was a 2:18.231. You'll notice that it is also his best lap time. So he is closing on Sam right now. And as it stands, that would be Staffen with the CrowdStrike fastest lap if he can finish out the last 6 minutes without Sam going quicker.
Yeah, that's right, and I think Josh has a lot of motivation to try to win this one. He's a really fast and competitive sim racer, so I'm sure his head's down and he's trying to hit all his marks and run a good, clean race for the last 5.5 minutes.
See, at the top of the screen there, the yellow, well, it just switched back to green, but every time we see those yellow bars, that means there's a caution in that sector. And for Sam, that meant that there was a car looped around in front of him, but it looks like that has cleared and he will continue. Noticing, I'm hearing a lot of tire screech in the front of Sam's car right now. And Kevin, you know very well that taking care of your tires in any race car is very important. It seems like Sam is kind of abusing those front tires and kind of dragging them through the corner. Yeah,
that's right. And fortunately, these races are pretty short, so he'll probably be able to get away with that. But it's really easy to do in this sim racing, is kind of overdrive the steering of your car and kind of turn the steering wheel too much, and you'll end up overheating and overwearing the tires if you do that for too long.
Keeping an eye on that gap, it still remains at 5.2. Let's jump back. How about 4th place? It's a 3-car battle now between the 33, the 6, and the 7. Actually make it a 4-car battle because David's joined us in the Porsche right at the back of this shot. Here he is. We'll ride on board.
Yeah, this is a great battle to see, especially from this perspective when you can see all the cars up front, because any of these cars make a mistake, there's 2 or 3 cars that can immediately take advantage of it. So it's really tough to try to kind of pass the car in front of you without putting yourself in a precarious position and losing a position to the car behind you.
Big slide for David coming out of the left-hander under the Total bridge, and then towards the double left-hander again. Car wide up the road. That is Jason in the 33 McLaren, and watching off the back of this car, he sees those other 3 approaching, and now a battle for 7th with Peter and David into the braking zone. Big dive for the Porsche up the outside. He's got that pass complete.
Yeah, that's a tough pass to pull off, but he made it look really easy. That was really fun to watch.
Absolutely, and he's not done yet. He's closing in now on the number 6 car. The next blue Mercedes up the road, and then of course that black number 33 also for the race lead. 2.2 seconds now separate Sam and Josh at the top of the grid, and we now have 3.5 minutes left to go. That means about 2 laps to go. Lamborghini in the middle of the racetrack, squeezing by goes the rest of the field as David approaches the number 6 into Blanchimont. They touch.
Oh wow, that was wow, he kept it off the wall, which is really fortunate. Wow.
Great save there by the driver, the number 6, for the race lead. Here's Sam and Josh going at it with lap traffic in front.
Yeah, this is wow. And that's how you really have to be careful, because the lap traffic can do really unpredictable things, and I think that's one of the reasons why the gap's been changing so much is these 2 guys, the 2 leaders, are trying to be cautious and not make any mistakes, but you're really having to react to some of the slower cars as you pass them.
Keeping an eye on the top spot, Staffen closing back in. Alex is super good on the brakes, closes there. 10 car lengths now, trying to close it to 9, under 1 second between the front 2.
Yeah, this is a fun battle to watch and see this unfold, and there's still probably 2 laps to go, so they'll complete this one and at least 1 more, maybe 1 after that. So it's definitely plenty of time left for them to sort this out.
And David's gotten through all the Mercedes and the McLaren as well. Looks like Jason's dropped down a couple spots. So David in the CrowdStrike Porsche has launched himself what should now be 4th place. So great run there, great recovery. We're going to stay on the front because I think it's about to get spicy up here as we come through the chicane. Next time by will be white flag, which means the final lap for the race leaders. They'll get that this time through.
That's right. It seems like every lap they're catching lap traffic, and it's definitely impacting the race as we see Josh try to figure out a way by this. There's a little bit of contact there.
And he finally gets through La Source. He lost some precious time to the race leaders now as they head down the hill towards Eau Rouge for the final time. Sam out front trying to claim a victory here in the first CrowdStrike Cup Virtual Racing League. Up the hill, over the top, he's through, and now just has to finish this one off and keep Staffen behind him.
That's right. I think that contact really hurt Josh. It's going to kind of affect the aerodynamics of the car, maybe the downforce just a little bit. So I think it's up to Sam to just kind of run a clean lap here, and I think he might have it sealed up.
Up and over the curbs through Lake Holm. Good gain for Staffen. Nice run through, a little bit wide, 4 tires off the racetrack. Can't do that too many times, but just trying to close the gap. Huge dive into the right-hander, just dragging that Lexus around and aching to close that gap and try to steal a victory away.
Yeah, it's all about hitting the marks here, no mistakes, as he's really pushing the track limits to the limit there, and the track will let you get by with a little bit of it. You can as long as you keep the inside wheels on the outside curb, generally you can that's considered legal. So they're definitely both Sam and Josh are really looking for every inch of the track right now.
Right, left, and then another left again here, another right again. So Sam, big slide on the brakes there for a moment. Staffen continues to try to close the gap. Only a couple of corners left for Sam in the CrowdStrike Racing Mercedes, and what a win it would be to have an early spin to come back from that and then claim victory by a small margin. This is about to get wild. Some lap traffic up the road, only 1 more chicane left for Sam.
That's right. It's only a couple of turns left, and it's all about hitting the marks and making sure that you stay out of the way of the lap traffic. And it's definitely been a great race so far.
Checkered flag waves for Sam and the number 16 CrowdStrike Mercedes by 5 car lengths. He comes out of the final corner, and Sam will take checkered flag here at Spa-Francorchamps with Josh Staffen right behind. Now we jump to third. It's the number 8 Bentley, driven by Matt. He's sweeping on through, and for the most part, this has been an uneventful race, and sometimes, Kevin, uneventful races are awful good.
That's great. I mean, especially when you can pull out a podium and just stay out of trouble, and that's a great result for Matt. So props to him for putting it all together and staying on the podium.
And only a couple more corners left for him to steal this up and grab himself that podium position. There's some Pirelli signs in the middle of the racetrack there that have bitten the dust with some traffic going through. Now down to 4th place, going down about a quarter of a lap to find David in the Porsche. He has had an up and down day, Kevin, but he's going to wrap it up with a top 5 by the looks of it. This is a great drive. Had to pass 3 cars in the final 2 laps to get this spot.
Right, he was definitely determined to make up for some mistakes earlier on, and it's great to see a 4th place finish and see him put on a passing clinic in the closing laps.
I was going to say he looks cool as a cucumber, but as real as the Assetto Competizione as we don't quite have real driver movement built in from the fist pumps going in the air after coming through for a top 5. But David sweeps out of the final corner and across the line now, and he'll finish inside the top 5. Great run for him. And now the number 6 Mercedes out of the final corner, and in tandem with the number 7 Mercedes, they come across the line. And Jason in the 33 McLaren, he's across now inside the top 10. Move on down to the 99 car of Chris. And that car, I think, has gotten away without having really much of a scratch on it. Maybe just a slight dent in the rear, but other than that, good race for him. Top 10 for Chris. As well as Jordan in McLaren. Chai Lu sweeping through Blanchimont in the 98 Porsche. Flat 6 screaming out of that car, right and left over the top of the curbing. Big slide there to finish out the lap, top 10. Car stuck up against the inside wall, trying to see what car that was. Don't think it's, might have been the 777 potentially. There's the 26, Mike doing burnouts down there. Celebrate that 12th. Nicely done.
That's right. Yeah, it's when you finish the race, it's a good day. So glad to see these guys having some fun at the end.
And again, Sam completing what looked to be the impossible a little bit earlier. Had again that issue getting kind of turned around, and he managed to claw his way back from 4th place, which I thought was amazing. But he will come home in victory lane. In just a moment, we're going to go show you your finishing order. And that is right here. So have a look down, find the familiar names at home. But, of course, it's Sam at the top of the order in the number 16 car by just over 1 second. Well done for Sam. Josh Staffen, we didn't see exactly what caused him to lose all that time. But some lap traffic sort of in the way for him. And then, of course, Matt, David kind of rounding out the rest of the top 5. With the CJ car, the number 6 in 5th, and Peter, Jason, Jordan, it looks like Chris and a couple other drivers rounding out the rest of the top 10. But a pretty fun race there, Kevin, for the first go at the CrowdStrike Cup Virtual Racing League. That was a fun one.
Yeah, it was, and we saw a lot of really close action, a lot of good battles, and back and forth between all the cars. So congratulations to everybody who was out there, and awesome job. I hope everybody had an awesome time.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for joining us here on CrowdStrike Racing. There is more to come. So if you'd like to learn how to be involved, you can head to CrowdStrikeRacing.com to learn more about the Virtual Racing League and the on-track season in 2021. Thanks so much, Kevin, for joining me here tonight. I look forward to seeing you again next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great.
All right, my name's Kyle Heyer here with CrowdStrike Racing. Thanks so much for watching our coverage of Assetto Corsa Competizione and the CrowdStrike Cup Virtual Racing League. We'll see you next time here on CrowdStrikeRacing.com.